The silver tray slipped from Mira's fingers. It crashed against the marble floor, but no one heard it. Not over the deafening silence that had swallowed the banquet hall whole. 300 nobles, warriors, council members, all of them frozen mid-breath, staring at the impossible scene before them. Alpha King Ares, the most feared ruler in 5 territories, was kneeling before her. His wolf had emerged without warning, massive and black as a moonless night. Now it lowered its head at her feet, and Mira's heart stopped when she saw the scar across its shoulder, the same wound she had bandaged in the forest 3 nights ago, the same wolf she had dragged through the snow to the healer's hut, the same wolf that had vanished before dawn without a word. Ares shifted back to human form, his golden eyes blazing. "Mate!" Lady Isolde's wineglass shattered, and then Mira saw the head housekeeper's face, not anger, but terror. Why would Moira be afraid? The room spun. Mira's knees buckled. The last thing she heard before darkness took her was a woman's shriek. That filthy Omega dares to leave a like and share your thoughts in the comments along with the city you're watching from. Now let's continue with the story. Mira's eyes flew open. Silk. She was lying on silk. Her body jerked upright, heart slamming against her ribs. This wasn't her straw mat in the basement. These weren't the cold stone walls she had woken to for 15 years. Crimson curtains, candlelight dancing on gilded mirrors, the scent of sandalwood and pine, royal chambers. Her lungs seized. She scrambled backward until her spine hit the headboard, fingers clawing at the sheets like they might swallow her whole. The door opened. Mira threw herself off the bed, knees cracking against the floor, head bowed so low her forehead nearly touched the stone. Instinct, survival. An Omega did not look at an Alpha. An Omega did not breathe without permission. Footsteps approached, stopped. Then impossibly she heard him lower himself to the ground. Her head snapped up. Alpha King Ares sat cross-legged on the floor before her, golden eyes level with hers. No throne, no elevation, just a king sitting in the dust with a servant girl. "You don't kneel to me," he said quietly. "Not anymore." Mira couldn't speak, couldn't think. Her hands trembled against her thighs, and she noticed the calluses rough and cracked from years of scrubbing floors. Hands that didn't belong in this room. Hands that didn't belong anywhere near him. Shouts erupted from the corridor. Demand an investigation. Clearly a scheme, a manipulation. No filthy Omega will wear our queen's crown. Lady Isolde's voice cut through the rest, sharp as breaking glass. Ares rose in one fluid motion, his expression darkening. He moved to the door, opened it just enough to speak through. His voice carried no anger, only cold, absolute command. The shouting stopped, footsteps retreated. But Mira knew this silence was temporary, a held breath before the storm. Ares closed the door and turned back to her. Something shifted in his gaze, something that made her stomach drop. "There's something you need to know," he said, "about the night you found me." Mira's throat tightened. "I wasn't tracking enemies through that forest." He took a step closer. "I was watching you. I've been watching you for 3 months. The room tilted. I knew who you were before the attack, before the poison, before any of it." Mira's voice cracked. "What do you mean? You knew who I was." Ares didn't answer. Instead, he asked, "Has anyone ever told you why you have no scent?" Mira stared at him. No scent. Every wolf had a scent. It was the first thing pups learned, how to read the invisible signatures that marked territory, emotion, identity. To have no scent was to be nothing, a ghost, a blank space where a person should be. "The court mage Eldrick detected it 3 months ago," Ares said. "Or rather, He detected the absence. You move through this castle like smoke. Mira, wolves pass you in corridors and forget your face before they reach the next room. Guards who've worked beside you for years can't recall your name. Her fingers curled into fists. I'm an Omega. We're supposed to be invisible. No. His voice hardened. This is different. This is ancient. Eldrick found only one reference in the old texts, a phenomenon called moon scent. It occurs once every few centuries, in Omegas chosen by the moon itself. He paused. Omegas destined to heal what cannot be healed. The words hung between them like a blade. You were watching me, Mira said slowly. To confirm this, to protect you. If our enemies discovered what you are before I could claim you publicly. He stopped. His jaw tightened. I was ambushed before I could act. The cursed silver in my bloodstream isn't ordinary poison. It spreads slowly, destroying the body's ability to regenerate. In 21 days, it will reach my heart. 21 days. The prophecy says only my mate can neutralize it, he continued. I didn't believe it. I thought it was superstition. A muscle feathered in his cheek. Then you dragged my wolf through a blizzard to save him. You didn't know who I was. You had nothing to gain. You just refused to let me die. Mira's chest ached. She didn't know how to respond to any of this. How do I know you're telling the truth? He didn't hesitate. You watch the moon from the kitchen window every night, exactly at midnight. You hide a copper coin beneath the third stone from the corner of your quarters, your entire savings. When you think no one can hear, you hum a lullaby. The same one. Always. It has no words. Her blood turned to ice. That lullaby. She didn't even know where she'd learned it. It lived somewhere deep in her bones, rising unbidden in her loneliest moments. No one had ever heard her sing it. No one should know. A knock shattered the moment. Ares moved to the door, opening it to reveal a broad-shouldered man with a scar bisecting his left eyebrow. General Brennan Mira recognized him from the banquet. The Alpha King's shadow, his sword arm. Brennan's report was clipped. Efficient. The court had fractured into factions overnight. Lady Isolde demanded a trial of verification, an ancient ritual to prove mate bonds. Half the council supported her, and the head housekeeper, Moira, had vanished. Vanished. Ares's eyes narrowed. Gone before dawn, Your Majesty. Took documents from the archive vault, old records, according to the scribes. Nothing they considered valuable. Mira's pulse stuttered. Moira. The woman who had terrorized her for 15 years. The woman whose face had twisted with inexplicable fear when Ares spoke that single word. Why would she run? What could possibly frighten the most powerful servant in the castle? I need to see Cormac, Mira heard herself say. Both men turned to her. The healer, she clarified. He's the only one I trust. If this cursed silver is real, he'll know about it. He knows everything about poisons. Ares studied her for a long moment, then nodded. Brennan goes with you. It wasn't a suggestion. They walked through corridors Mira had scrubbed countless times, but everything felt different now. She caught servants staring, whispering, some with curiosity, others with naked hostility. Halfway to the healer's quarters, Mira realized she was pressing herself against the wall, avoiding the patches of sunlight streaming through the windows. Old habit. Guards punished Omegas caught lingering in visible areas. Shadows were safer. Brennan noticed. His gaze flickered to her, then away. He said nothing, but something shifted in his expression. They passed the basement door, the entrance to the servants' quarters where Mira had slept on stone floors for 15 years. She stopped without meaning to, her hand hovering over the worn wood. She didn't go in. She just stood there, breathing. Then she turned and walked away, spine straight, shoulders back, behind her. Brennan followed in silence. Cormac's hut smelled of dried herbs and wood smoke. The old healer looked up when they entered, and his weathered face went pale. "Child," he whispered. His hands trembled as he set down his mortar and pestle. He tried to rise, stumbled, caught himself on the table's edge. Mira had never seen Cormac afraid, not once in 15 years. "The cursed silver," she said. "Tell me about it." His eyes darted away. "It's old magic. Forbidden. Last used in the War of the Eastern Territories. 20 years ago." His voice cracked. "Terrible weapon. Terrible times. You were there." He didn't answer. On the walk back, Mira's mind churned with questions. 20 years ago. The war that had reshaped the kingdom. What did Cormac know? What was he hiding? She was so lost in thought that she almost missed it. A figure at the end of the corridor. Gray dress. White hair pulled back severely. Moira. The housekeeper stood motionless in the shadows, watching Mira with an expression that made no sense. Not hatred, not contempt. Guilt. And beneath it, bone-deep terror. Their eyes met. Mira opened her mouth to call out, but Moira was already moving, slipping around the corner like smoke. "Wait." Mira ran to the intersection. Empty. The corridor stretched in both directions, silent and still. "What is it?" Brennan appeared beside her, hand on his sword. "Moira, she was just here. You didn't see her." Brennan frowned. "There's no one, my lady. The hall is empty." Mira stared at the shadows. Was she losing her mind, or was Moira still watching, waiting for something Mira didn't yet understand? Day 3. 18 days remaining. The great hall fell silent as Mira placed her palm against Ares' chest. She expected nothing, hoped for nothing. A lifetime of disappointment had taught her that much. Then light erupted beneath her fingers. Silver radiance pulsed from the point of contact, spreading across Ares' torso like moonlight on water. The glow intensified until Mira had to squint, until gasps rippled through the assembled nobles like wind through wheat. When it faded, no one spoke. Court Mage Eldrick stepped forward, his ancient face unreadable. "The bond is genuine, sealed by the moon herself. There can be no dispute." Lady Isolde stood frozen among the crowd, her knuckles white around her goblet. Other nobles shifted uneasily, their earlier demands for verification trials dying on their tongues. Eldrick's voice rang through the hall as he read from a crumbling scroll. "When the Wolf King bears wounds that cannot mend, only the moon-chosen Omega shall bring healing. She will come in darkness, bearing nothing but compassion in her hands." Mira's breath caught. Darkness. Compassion. Nothing else. That night in the forest, she'd had no torch, no weapon, no plan, just a bleeding wolf and the inexplicable refusal to walk away. The prophecy described her exactly. For the first time in 22 years, something like hope flickered in her chest. Day 5, 16 days remaining. The treatment was simple in theory. Each evening, Mira pressed her hands to the wound on Ares' shoulder, the scar she'd bandaged in Cormac's hut. The mate bond would channel her energy into his bloodstream, gradually neutralizing the cursed silver. 15 days of contact, 15 days of proximity, 15 days of learning to breathe in the same room as a man who made her pulse stutter. On the third night, they started talking. "I became Alpha King at 18, Ares said, staring at the ceiling while Mira's palms warmed against his shoulder. "My father died in battle. My mother followed 3 days later, grief. They said, but I knew better. She couldn't survive without her mate." His jaw tightened. I swore I'd never be that weak, never let anyone have that power over me. Mira said nothing. Her fingers traced the edge of his scar, feeling the heat beneath. Then you dragged my wolf through a blizzard, he continued quietly, and I understood why my mother chose to follow my father into death. The words landed like stones in still water. Mira pulled her hands back slowly. I used to count the cracks in the ceiling above my mat. 12 cracks. I'd count them over and over until the hunger stopped feeling so sharp. She paused. 12 cracks. 12 hours without food. Sometimes the numbers matched. Aries turned his head to look at her. Neither of them spoke again that night. They didn't need to. Day 6. 15 days remaining. Something went wrong during the session. One moment, Mira was channeling energy into Aries' wound. The next, darkness crashed over her vision like a wave. When she opened her eyes, she was lying on the floor. Aries crouched over her, his face tight with fear. "What happened?" she croaked. "You collapsed." His voice was rough. "Your nose was bleeding." Mira touched her upper lip. Her fingers came away red. Cormac arrived within the hour, examining her with trembling hands. When he finished, his face had aged 10 years. "You're not just neutralizing the poison," he said slowly. "You're absorbing it, drawing it out of his blood and into your own." The room went cold. "The cursed silver is transferring to her." Aries' voice was dangerous. Why didn't the prophecy mention this? Prophecies rarely mention prices. Cormac's eyes met Mira's. "If you continue, the poison will accumulate in your system. Your body is weaker than an alpha's." The timeline. "I don't care about timelines." Mira sat up despite the dizziness. "How much have I absorbed so far?" Cormac hesitated. "Perhaps 10%. Then 90% remains. We continue." "Absolutely not." Aries stood, pacing like a caged wolf. "I won't let you sacrifice yourself for—" "Let me," Mira's voice cut through his protest. "You don't let me do anything. This is my choice, my life. For 22 years, no one gave me choices. Not about what I ate, not about where I slept, not about whether I lived or died." She met his golden gaze without flinching. "You don't get to take this choice from me." The silence stretched between them. Finally, Aries exhaled. His shoulders dropped. "Then we find another way. A way that doesn't kill you." Day 7. 14 days remaining, Brennan brought news at dawn. His scouts had located the attackers, a rogue pack near the northern border. They'd identified the camp, counted the numbers, mapped the defenses. "We strike in 3 days, Brennan reported. "If we capture their leader, we may find an antidote. The cursed silver had to come from somewhere. Someone knows how to reverse it." Hope surged through Mira's chest. An antidote, a cure that didn't require her death or Aries's. For the first time, the path forward seemed clear. That night, Mira woke to find Aries sitting beside her bed. He wasn't watching her. He was counting. "What are you doing?" she whispered. 103, he murmured. "What? Your breaths, before you fall into deep sleep. 103 every night." His golden eyes finally met hers. "I've been counting since the second night." Mira's heart forgot how to beat. This man, this terrifying, powerful, broken king, sat in the dark counting her breaths like prayers. She reached out. Her fingers brushed his jaw. He closed his eyes and leaned into her touch. Day 7. Midnight, Mira couldn't sleep after Aries left. She walked to the balcony, letting the cold air clear her head. The moon hung full and bright, and for the first time, she felt like it was watching her back. A glint caught her eye. Something lay on the balcony railing, small, metallic. She stepped closer and her blood turned to ice. A necklace, tarnished copper chain, a small crescent moon pendant, identical to the one hanging around her neck. Mira's hand flew to her throat. Her necklace was still there. She could feel the familiar weight of it, but this one, this impossible duplicate, lay waiting for her like a message from a ghost. A scrap of parchment fluttered beneath it, held down by a small stone. Mira's fingers shook as she unfolded it. 7 words, handwriting she didn't recognize. Ask Cormac about the night you were born. The moon disappeared behind clouds, and somewhere in the darkness below, Mira heard footsteps retreating into shadow. Day 8, 13 days remaining, Mira found Cormac at dawn. The old healer was grinding herbs when she entered, his movements slow and methodical. He didn't look up, didn't acknowledge her presence. She placed both necklaces on the table. The pestle stopped. Tell me about the night I was born. Cormac's hands began to tremble. The tremor spread up his arms, into his shoulders, until his whole body seemed to vibrate with something between terror and grief. Where did you get that? His voice cracked. Someone left it for me. Someone who knows more about my past than I do. Mira leaned forward. I've asked you questions for 15 years. About my parents, about where I came from. You always said you didn't know. You lied. I was protecting you. From what? The words exploded from her chest. 15 years of confusion. 15 years of feeling wrong in her own skin. 15 years of being told she was nothing. No one. Invisible. Cormac crumpled. His knees hit the floor. His forehead pressed against the cold stone. And then he was weeping great, shuddering sobs that seemed to tear themselves from somewhere deep and wounded. Forgive me, he gasped. Forgive me, child. I wanted to tell you. Every day. I wanted to tell you. Mira stood frozen. She had never seen Cormac cry. She hadn't known he could. Tell me now. The story came in fragments, broken pieces of a history Mira had never been allowed to know. 20 years ago, the kingdom was not one but many. Rival wolf packs controlled different territories, each ruled by their own alpha. Her father, Alpha Roderick, led the Eastern Pack. He was powerful, just beloved. He was also a threat. The previous king, Ares' father, wanted unification. One kingdom, one ruler, one crown. When Roderick refused to bend the knee, the king declared war. The Eastern Pack was slaughtered. Roderick died on the battlefield. His mate and Omega, named Alara, fled with their newborn daughter into the mountains. Alara, Mira whispered. My mother. Cormac nodded, tears streaming down his weathered face. My daughter. My only child. The floor seemed to tilt beneath Mira's feet. Cormac. The healer who had treated her scrapes and fevers, who had slipped her extra bread when no one was watching, who had been the closest thing to kindness in her brutal world, her grandfather. The king sent hunters after them, Cormac continued. He ordered every member of Roderick's bloodline exterminated. No survivors, no heirs, no future challengers to his throne. His voice dropped to a whisper. He sent Moira. Mira's blood turned to ice. Moira, the head housekeeper, the woman who had made her life a waking nightmare for 15 years. She found them when you were 2 years old. Alara knew she couldn't escape. She begged Moira not for her own life, but for yours. Cormac's hands covered his face. Moira was supposed to kill you both. Instead, she made a choice. What choice? She killed Alara, made it look like she'd killed the child too. Then she smuggled you into the castle's orphan quarters and erased every trace of your identity. He looked up, eyes red and hollow. She didn't save you out of mercy, child. She saved you because Alara was her closest friend, because she couldn't bring herself to murder a baby, because some sins are too heavy even for loyal soldiers." Mira couldn't breathe. Her entire life, every beating, every humiliation, every moment of invisible suffering had been a disguise. A mask to hide the daughter of a murdered alpha from the family that had destroyed her bloodline, and Ares' father had ordered it all. "The necklace," she managed. "Why are there two? One was Alara's, one was Roderick's. They were bonded pair, matching crescents, forged from the same metal." Cormac reached out with shaking fingers. "Your mother hid Roderick's pendant before she died. She told Moira where to find it. Said that one day, if you survived, you would need proof of who you really are." Proof. Mira stared at the twin pendants. Proof that she wasn't an Omega. Proof that she was the last heir of a slaughtered bloodline. Proof that the man she was bound to, the man whose life she was slowly sacrificing herself to save, was the son of her family's murderer. The door slammed open. Brennan stood in the entrance, chest heaving, face ashen. "The Northern Raid," he gasped. "It failed. Our forces were ambushed. They weren't rogues. They were trained soldiers, professional killers." Ares appeared behind him, golden eyes blazing. "Who leads them?" Brennan's jaw worked. His hands clenched at his sides. "Your Majesty, it's Kaelin." The name landed like a thunderclap. Mira saw Ares go rigid, saw the color drain from his face, saw something shatter behind his eyes. "Kaelin is dead," Ares said flatly. "He died 3 years ago. I watched his battalion fall. He survived. The enemy captured him. Brennan swallowed hard. They broke him, rebuilt him. He doesn't remember who he is anymore. He only knows one mission." "What mission?" "Kill the Alpha King." Silence. Mira watched Ares process the impossible truth. His brother, the brother he'd mourned for 3 years, was alive and brainwashed and trying to murder him. The cursed silver in Ares' blood, the ambush in the forest, the poison designed to kill slowly, painfully. Kaelin had done it all. A brother's blade in a brother's back. Mira wanted to reach for Ares, wanted to offer comfort. But how could she? His father had slaughtered her family. Her existence was built on bones his bloodline had buried. She stayed silent, kept her distance. Ares didn't seem to notice. He turned and walked out without a word, shoulders rigid, hands trembling at his sides. Day 8, midnight. Mira stood on her balcony, unable to sleep. The moon hung heavy and orange, a harvest moon, the kind that made wolves restless. She pressed her palms against the cold stone railing and tried to organize the chaos in her mind. She should tell Ares about her bloodline, about what his father had done, about the truth rotting between them like an unhealed wound. But every time she opened her mouth, the words died in her throat. How do you tell someone that loving them feels like betraying everything you should be? A whisper of movement. Mira turned, scanning the darkness. Nothing. Just shadows and silence. She exhaled, rubbing her arms against the chill. Then pain exploded through her shoulder. Mira looked down, uncomprehending. An arrow shaft protruded from her flesh, black feathers brushing her collarbone. Blood bloomed across her nightgown like spilled wine. Her knees buckled. As she fell, she saw him, a figure crouched on the rooftop across the courtyard. Werewolf, yellow eyes. A face that looked hauntingly like Ares, but wrong. Twisted. Empty. He smiled. "Hello, sister-in-law." His voice carried across the distance, soft and sing-song and utterly mad. "I've come to collect my brother's heart, but first, I thought I'd take his..." He meant her. He meant her heart. Mira opened her mouth to scream, but the darkness was already pulling her under. The last thing she heard was the howl of a black wolf and the sound of shattering glass as Ares crashed through her window. Day 10. 11 days remaining, Mira woke to fire in her veins. The pain radiated from her shoulder in waves, each pulse bringing fresh agony. She tried to move, to sit up, but her body refused. Lead filled her limbs. Ice crystallized in her blood. Don't. Ares's voice, hoarse, broken. She turned her head. Even that small movement sent lightning through her nerves, and found him beside her bed. He looked like a man who hadn't slept in days. Hollow cheeks, bloodshot eyes, stubble darkening his jaw. "The arrow," she whispered, "tipped with cursed silver." His hands clenched the bedsheets. "The same poison in my blood. Kaelin wanted to—" He stopped, swallowed. "He wanted me to watch you die the same way I'm dying." The words took a moment to penetrate. The same poison. She was infected now, too. How long? Her voice sounded distant, foreign. "Your body is weaker than mine. Eldrick estimates—" Ares couldn't finish. He pressed his fist against his mouth like he was physically holding back a scream. She understood. She didn't need the number. Both of them were dying now, racing toward the same finish line, and somehow, impossibly, she was losing faster. Day 10, afternoon, Ares tore the castle apart searching for Kaelin. Mira heard the destruction from her bed. Crashing furniture, splintering wood, the raw, guttural roars of a wolf losing his mind. Brennan tried to calm him. Failed. The servants fled in terror. Guards pressed themselves against walls as their king raged through corridors, overturning tables, ripping tapestries, destroying everything his hands could reach. When the sounds finally stopped, Mira knew it wasn't because Ares had found peace. It was because there was nothing left to break. Day 10, dusk. The messenger arrived at sunset. Mira was drifting in and out of consciousness when Brennan's voice cut through the fog. The healer's hut, burned to the ground. Cormac was inside. She was out of bed before her mind caught up to her body. Pain screamed through her shoulder. Her legs buckled. She caught herself on the bedpost, dragged herself upright, and staggered toward the door. "My lady, you can't move." Something in her voice made Brennan step aside. She ran, through corridors, downstairs, across the courtyard. Every step was agony. Every breath was glass in her lungs. But she couldn't stop, couldn't slow down, couldn't accept what she already knew was true. The hut was ash. Smoke still rose from the ruins, black against the orange sky. The walls had collapsed inward. The roof was gone. Everything Cormac had built over decades, his herbs, his books, his life's work reduced to cinders. And in the rubble, a shape. Mira fell to her knees beside him. Cormac lay broken among the debris. Burns covered his arms. Blood soaked through his robes. His breath came in shallow, rattling gasps. But his eyes were clear. "Child," he whispered, "don't talk." Mira pressed her hands against his chest, trying to stop the bleeding, trying to do something, anything. "Just hold on, we'll get Eldrick. We'll listen." His hand closed around her wrist, weak, trembling. No time. Tears streamed down Mira's face. She didn't try to stop them. "I waited 20 years, Cormac said. 20 years to call you granddaughter, to tell you the truth. Every day. I wanted to. Every day. I was afraid. You should have told me." The words came out broken. "I would have understood. I would have. You would have been killed." He smiled, sad and knowing. Moira understood. She wasn't your enemy, child. She was your shield. Every cruelty she showed you, every beating, every humiliation it was to keep you invisible, to keep you alive. He coughed, and blood flecked his lips. She wept for you, every night for 20 years. Mira couldn't speak. The tears came too fast. There is a way, Cormac continued, his voice fading. To heal you both, without sacrifice. I hid a book. Beneath the old oak, Eastern Garden. Eldrick will understand. His hand went limp. Grandfather. Mira shook him. Grandfather, please, don't go. Don't leave me. I just found you. Please. But Cormac's eyes had already emptied. Mira screamed. It wasn't a sound of grief. It was something rawer, more primal. 22 years of loneliness and confusion and silent suffering. Finally given voice. Ares found her there, clutching Cormac's body in the ashes. He didn't speak. He just knelt beside her and held her while she broke, day 10 night. Eldrick found the book, ancient leather. Pages yellowed with age, script so old it took him hours to translate. When he finally spoke, his voice shook. The prophecy I read at court was incomplete. Half was removed from the official records by the previous king. He set the book down like it might bite him. The full text reads, "The moon-chosen Omega shall heal the Wolf King by drawing the poison into herself, but the price of healing is memory. When the cure is complete, she will forget the one she saved. They will become strangers, the bond between them erased." The room went silent. Mira could save Ares. She could pull every drop of cursed silver from his blood, purge it through her own body, restore him to perfect health, and she would forget he ever existed. No. Ares' voice was steel. Absolutely not. There has to be another way. There isn't. Eldrick looked exhausted. Old. The prophecy is clear. The book confirms it. This is the only path. Then I choose death. Ares turned to Mira, eyes blazing. I won't let you sacrifice your memories. I won't let you forget us. You knew. The realization hit her like a fist. You knew about this. Before the ceremony. Before any of it. Ares went still. Eldrick showed me the complete text weeks ago. I ordered him to keep it secret. His jaw tightened. I thought I could find another solution. I thought, you thought you could decide for me. Mira's voice cracked. Again. I was trying to protect you. By lying. The word hung between them. Ares had no answer. Day 10 midnight. Mira sat alone by the window, watching the moon. Same ritual. Different context. 22 years of gazing at that silver disk, wondering if anyone was gazing back. Now she knew the moon had been watching all along, choosing her, preparing her for this impossible choice. She thought about everything she'd lost, parents she never knew, a grandfather she'd found too late, a childhood stolen, an identity erased, and Ares, the man who counted her breaths in the dark, who sat on the floor so she wouldn't have to kneel, who looked at her like she was the only star in his sky. If she saved him, she would lose all of it, every memory, every moment, every whispered confession in candlelight. They would pass each other in corridors like strangers. She would look at him and feel nothing. Her hand found parchment, a quill. If she was going to forget him, she would leave something behind, words he could show her, proof that she had loved him, even if she couldn't remember why. If someday a stranger looks at you with familiar eyes, give her a chance. She loved you once. She might learn to love you again. A howl shattered the silence, then another, and another. Hundreds of wolves, their voices rising in a war cry that shook the castle walls. Kaelin. Mira ran to the balcony. Torches flickered in the darkness below, an army materializing from the forest like ghosts. Wolf forms streamed toward the gates. Not a raid, an invasion. She turned to run, to find Ares, to do something, and collided with a figure standing in her doorway. Gray dress, white hair, familiar face. Moira. The woman who had beaten her, starved her, made her life a living hell for 20 years. The woman who had also saved her life. "I know how to save you both," Moira said, "without anyone losing their memories, without anyone dying." Mira's heart stopped. "But you need to know the truth first. The whole truth." Moira's eyes glistened. "About what you really are. About what was done to you as a child. About why you have no scent." Outside, the howling grew louder. "There's no time. There's only time for this." Moira grabbed her hands. "You're not an Omega, child. You never were. Your alpha blood was locked away when you were an infant, sealed to hide you from the king's hunters. That lock is why you have no scent, why you've felt wrong your entire life, why the poison affects you differently than it should." Mira couldn't breathe. "If we unlock your true nature, your alpha blood will destroy the cursed silver in both of you." Moira squeezed tighter. "But the transformation will be violent. You're 22 years old. Your body has never shifted. The process could kill you." Below, the castle gates groaned. "What are the odds?" Mira whispered. Moira's face crumpled. "No one knows. It's never been done before." She pulled Mira into a fierce embrace. "I'm sorry. For everything. Every blow, every cruel word. I was trying to keep you invisible, keep you safe, and I failed you anyway." The gates exploded inward. Screams erupted from the courtyard. Steel clashed against steel. Wolf howls mixed with human cries. And somewhere in the chaos, Mira heard Ares' roar, the sound of an alpha meeting his brother in battle. Moira released her. "Choose now, child. Die slowly from poison. Forget the man you love. Or risk everything on a transformation that might tear you apart." The castle shook. Mira closed her eyes. When she opened them, her decision was made. Day 11, 10 days remaining, Mira pulled back from Moira's embrace. "Tell me everything." The words came out steady, calm. Something had shifted inside her, some wall crumbling, some fire igniting. Moira spoke quickly, words tumbling out between the sounds of battle below. "Your father was Alpha Roderick, pure bloodline, one of the oldest wolf lineages in existence. When you were born, you carried that blood, alpha blood, not Omega. But the king's hunters were everywhere. If they sensed an alpha child, they would have found you within days. So you hid it. I sealed it." Moira's hands trembled. "There's an ancient ritual. Forbidden. It locks away a wolf's true nature, buries it so deep that even the carrier doesn't know it exists. I performed it when you were 6 months old. It's why you have no scent, why you've never shifted, why you feel like a ghost in your own skin." Mira absorbed this. All those years of feeling wrong, broken, incomplete. Not because she was defective, because a piece of her soul had been locked away. The seal can be broken. Yes, but Moira hesitated. "You're 22 years old. Your body should have shifted at 16. 6 years of suppressed transformation, released all at once." She shook her head. "The pain will be beyond anything you've experienced. Your bones will break and reform. Your muscles will tear and rebuild. Your entire physiology will restructure in minutes instead of months. Will I survive?" Moira's silence was answer enough. "What are the chances?" Mira pressed. "I don't know. No one has ever unlocked a seal this old. The records mention attempts, but her voice cracked. None of them survived. Glass shattered somewhere below. A wolf's howl cut short. Steel sang against steel. Mira walked to the window. The courtyard was chaos. Ares' forces clashed with Kaelin's army in a writhing mass of fur and blood. She could see Ares in the thick of it, his black wolf form cutting through enemies like shadow through light. But he was slowing. The cursed silver was draining him, and Kaelin was circling, waiting, patient as death. "If I unlock my blood," Mira said slowly, "the alpha energy will destroy the poison. In theory, your bloodline is old, pure. The power released during transformation should burn the cursed silver from your system, and if you're touching Ares when it happens, from his as well, should. It's not a guarantee. Nothing is—" Mira turned from the window. She looked at Moira, really looked at her, and saw the woman clearly for the first time. 20 years of cruelty. 20 years of cold words and harsh hands, and beneath it all, 20 years of silent sacrifice. "You loved my mother." Moira's composure finally broke. Tears spilled down her weathered cheeks. "She was my only friend. When the king sent me to kill her, she didn't beg for her own life. She begged for yours." Her voice shattered. "She made me promise. She said, if I couldn't save them both, I had to save you. She died believing you would live." She was right. No. Moira shook her head violently. "I failed you. Every day for 20 years, I failed you. The beatings, the starvation, the humiliation. I told myself it was necessary. That cruelty would make you invisible. But I was a coward. Mira crossed the room and pulled Moira into her arms. The older woman went rigid with shock, then collapsed against her, sobbing. "You kept me alive," Mira whispered. "When everyone else wanted me dead, you kept me alive. That's not failure. That's love." They held each other while the castle burned. When Mira pulled away, her eyes were dry. "Prepare the ritual." Moira stared at her. "Child, you could die." "I could." Mira picked up the letter she'd written for Ares and folded it carefully. "But I've spent 22 years waiting to die, waiting for the next blow, the next cruelty, the next person to look through me like I wasn't there." She tucked the letter into her bodice. "I'm done waiting. I'm done being invisible. If I'm going to die, it's going to be because I chose to, because I fought for something that matters. The man who is not his father." Mira's voice hardened. "Ares didn't kill my parents. Ares didn't order the slaughter. He spent his whole life trying to be better than the blood he came from." She paused, "Just like me." A distant roar shook the walls. Ares, fighting, dying. "Get Eldrick," Mira said. "Now." The ritual chamber was a circular room at the top of the eastern tower. Moonlight streamed through the domed ceiling, painting silver patterns on the stone floor. Eldrick had drawn symbols in chalk, ancient marks that seemed to writhe and pulse in the lunar glow. "Stand in the center," Eldrick instructed. His hands trembled as he arranged candles around the circle. "When the incantation begins, the seal will start to crack. The process cannot be stopped once initiated. Do you understand?" Mira stepped into the light. The moon felt different here, heavier, like a hand pressing against her chest, searching for something buried deep inside. "I understand." Moira hovered at the edge of the circle, face pale. "If the pain becomes too much, it won't stop me." Mira closed her eyes. She thought about her mother, dying in the snow so her daughter could live. She thought about Cormac, keeping his secret for 20 years, loving her from a distance. She thought about Moira, sacrificing her soul to keep a promise. And she thought about Ares, the way he sat on the floor so she wouldn't have to kneel, the way he counted her breaths in the darkness, the way he looked at her like she was real, like she mattered, like she had always mattered. For the first time in her life, someone had seen her. She wasn't going to let him die. Eldric's voice rose in an ancient tongue. The chalk symbols blazed white. The air grew thick, electric, charged with power older than the castle itself. Something stirred in Mira's chest, something that had been sleeping for 22 years. The first crack appeared in the seal, and Mira screamed. Pain exploded through her body. Her bones splintered. Her muscles tore. Her skin rippled and stretched as something massive fought to escape from within. Through the agony, she heard chaos erupting below, Ares' roar, Kalen's laugh, the clash of wolves in mortal combat. Then a voice cut through everything, cold, mocking, triumphant. Choose, brother. Save your mate or stop me. You can't do both. The moon blazed. Mira's spine shattered and reformed, and somewhere in the darkness of her mind, something silver began to wake. Day 11, night of the full moon. Ares tasted blood, his own, his enemies, his brothers. The black wolf moved through the battlefield like death incarnate, jaws snapping, claws tearing, leaving destruction in his wake. But each kill cost him. The cursed silver pulsed through his veins with every heartbeat, sapping his strength, clouding his vision. Kalen circled at the edge of the carnage. His gray wolf was smaller than Ares's, leaner, built for speed rather than power. But his eyes held no recognition, no hesitation, just the cold, mechanical focus of a weapon pointed at its target. 3 years. 3 years Ares had mourned his brother. 3 years of guilt he should have searched harder, should have refused to believe the reports of Kalen's death. 3 years of nightmares where he watched his little brother fall and did nothing. Now Kalen stood before him, alive and empty, and trying to kill him. Brother. Ares shifted to human form, gasping. I know you're in there. Fight it. Remember who you are. Kalen's wolf tilted its head, curious, amused. Then it spoke a guttural, wrong sound forced through animal vocal cords. Brother died 3 years ago. I'm what's left. He lunged. Ares barely dodged. His reflexes were failing. The poison had spread too far. They crashed together in a tangle of fur and fangs. Ares was stronger, but Kalen was faster. Every time Ares pinned him, he slipped free. Every time Ares landed a blow, Kalen answered with 2. Blood splattered the cobblestones. In the tower above, Mira was dying. Every bone in her body had broken at least once. Her muscles had torn and reformed so many times she'd lost count. The pain had transcended physical sensation. It was everywhere now. A white-hot universe of agony that consumed thought, memory, identity. But something was emerging from the fire. Something silver. She felt it rising through her chest, a power that had slept for 22 years. Finally waking. It stretched through her limbs like molten moonlight, burning away the weakness, the doubt, the invisible girl she'd been forced to become. Her skin split. Fur erupted, not gray like an omega, not black like the royal line. Silver. Pure, blazing silver. Eldric stumbled backward. Moira fell to her knees. Before them stood a wolf that hadn't existed in 200 years. Silver wolves were legend, myth, the original alpha bloodline, long believed extinct. Their power was said to rival the moon itself. They could heal the unhealable, break the unbreakable, see into the souls of other wolves. Mira opened eyes that burned like captured starlight, and she ran. Ares was losing Kaelin had him pinned against the fountain, jaws inches from his throat. The cursed silver made his movement sluggish, his reactions slow. He could feel his heart struggling, each beat weaker than the last. Any last words? Kaelin's human voice emerged from the wolf's mouth. Wrong. Theatrical. The puppeteer behind the puppet, savoring the moment. The king who killed my masters is about to die by his brother's teeth. Poetic. Don't you think? Ares closed his eyes. He'd failed. Failed his kingdom. Failed his brother. Failed Mira. Mira? At least she was safe in the castle. At least she would survive. At least a howl split the night. Not a battle cry. Not a warning. Something older. Something that made every wolf in the courtyard freeze mid-motion. Kaelin's head snapped up. From the castle doors, a silver wolf emerged. She was massive, nearly as large as Ares in his prime. Her coat blazed like moonfire, illuminating the darkness. Her eyes held the light of stars. Every wolf in the courtyard dropped to its belly. Instinct, compulsion. The ancient response to a bloodline that predated kingdoms. Kaelin alone remained standing, though his legs trembled. What is this? The confidence had evaporated from his voice. This is impossible. The silver bloodline is dead. They're all dead. The silver wolf padded forward. She didn't attack, didn't threaten. She simply walked toward Kaelin with the quiet certainty of the tide coming in. Kaelin snarled, tried to lunge, but his body wouldn't obey. Some force held him rooted, muscles locked, jaws frozen mid-snap. The silver wolf stopped before him and looked into his eyes. Mira had never felt anything like this. The power flowing through her wasn't just physical, it was perceptive, intuitive. She could sense every wolf in the courtyard, their fears, their loyalties, their deepest wounds. And Kaelin. Kaelin was a wound given form. She pushed into his mind. The resistance was immediate. Walls of conditioning, layers of torture, memories twisted and rewired until the original boy was buried beneath mountains of manufactured hate. But she kept pushing, deeper, past the programming, past the pain, past the 3 years of systematic destruction, until she found him, a 10-year-old boy, huddled in the corner of his own shattered psyche, crying, terrified, still calling for his brother, Kaelin. The boy looked up. Your brother is here. He never stopped looking for you. He never stopped loving you. She showed him. Memories she'd absorbed from Ares during their mate bond, every nightmare where Ares watched Kaelin fall, every moment of guilt, every prayer whispered to an uncaring moon. He thought you were dead. It nearly destroyed him. The walls began to crack. Come back. Come home. She reached for the boy's hand and the programming fought back. Pain lanced through Mira's skull. The foreign presence in Kaelin's mind, the real enemy. Whoever had broken him lashed out with vicious force. She felt herself being pushed back, expelled, rejected. But she didn't let go. She poured everything she had into that connection. Every ounce of power. Every spark of the silver fire burning through her veins. The cursed silver in her blood ignited. She screamed as it burned through her system, but it was burning through Kaelin too, following the mental link she'd created. The poison that had been killing them both became a purifying flame, searing away the corruption in his mind. The walls shattered. Kaelin's wolf collapsed. When he rose, his eyes were clear. Ares. His voice was young, broken, human. Brother, where am I? What happened? Ares shifted to human form, tears streaming down his face. Kaelin, it's me. You're safe now. You're home. They embraced in the blood-soaked courtyard. 2 brothers reunited after 3 years of separation. Mira watched them through dimming vision. The power had drained her completely. The transformation, the mental assault, The burning of the poison, it had taken everything. She felt her legs give out, felt her heart stutter, felt the silver light begin to fade from her eyes. She collapsed. The silver wolf vanished, replaced by a small human woman lying motionless on the cobblestones. Her chest didn't move. Her eyes stared sightlessly at the moon. Mira. Ares' scream echoed off the castle walls. He was at her side in an instant, gathering her limp body in his arms. His hands searched for a pulse. Found nothing. No. He pressed his ear to her chest. Silence. She wasn't breathing. Her heart had stopped. "Don't you dare!" His voice cracked. "Don't you dare leave me. Not now. Not after everything." He bit into his own wrist, forcing blood into her mouth. Old legends spoke of mate blood having restorative properties, but only for bonded pairs, only for wolves who had marked each other. They hadn't completed the bond. The blood trickled uselessly from her lips. "Please." Ares cradled her against his chest. "Please come back. I'll do anything. Take anything. Just come back to me." Brennan approached slowly. "Your Majesty, she's gone." No. The word wasn't a denial. It was a command, a refusal to accept reality. Ares looked at Mira's still face, the face he'd watched for 3 months before she ever knew his name, the face that had shown him compassion when she had nothing to gain, the face that had become his entire world. He made a choice. He lowered his head to her throat and bit. His fangs pierced her skin, marking her as his mate, claiming her in death since he couldn't claim her in life. The bond flared between them, incomplete and desperate, reaching for a soul that was already slipping away. Ares poured everything he had into that connection, his strength, his will, his life force. "Come back to me." Silence. "I'll spend eternity trying to make you remember. Every day I'll fall in love with you again. Every day I'll prove that we belong together. Nothing. Please." 1 second passed. 5. 10. Then Mira gasped. Her body arched off the ground. Her eyes flew open, still silver, now rimmed with gold. The mark on her throat blazed like a brand, sealing the bond that had pulled her back from death. She looked at Ares with eyes that held the moon and the sun together. "I told you," she whispered. "I won't abandon you." He crushed her against him, sobbing into her hair. Around them, Kaelin's army laid down their weapons. The wolves who had invaded the castle dropped to their bellies before the silver wolf reborn. The battle was over. Mira rested in Ares' arms, too weak to move, but something caught her attention. A shimmer at the edge of the courtyard, a figure standing apart from the crowd, a woman with ash-gray hair and silver eyes, transparent, luminous, smiling. Mira's mother. Ilara's ghost pressed a hand to her heart, then extended it toward her daughter, a gesture of pride, of love, of farewell. Then she turned toward the moon and dissolved into light. Mira wept, but for the first time, they were tears of peace. Day 21. The day Ares was supposed to die. Sunlight streamed through the chamber windows. Mira stood before the mirror, tracing the mark on her throat. The bite had healed into an elegant scar, 2 crescent indentations that shimmered faintly silver in certain light. The sign of a completed mate bond, the proof that she had died and returned. She felt different now, stronger, more present. The ghostly sensation that had haunted her entire life, the feeling of being half-formed, incomplete, had vanished entirely. Her alpha blood flowed freely through her veins, and for the first time, she felt fully alive. A knock at the door. Ares entered, and Mira's breath still caught at the sight of him. The hollowness was gone from his face. Color had returned to his skin. The cursed silver had burned away completely during her transformation, leaving no trace in either of their bodies. His scar remained the wound she had bandaged in Cormac's hut, but it no longer pulsed with poison. Just a memory now, a reminder of the night that had changed everything. "The court is assembled," he said. "Are you ready?" Mira smoothed the silver gown Moira had chosen for her. "Ready as I'll ever be." The great hall was packed. Nobles filled every corner, their faces a mixture of curiosity, suspicion, and reluctant awe. Word had spread about the Silver Wolf, about the battle, about the mate who had died and risen again. Mira walked beside Ares, spine straight, chin lifted. She no longer avoided the patches of sunlight. Kaelin knelt in the center of the hall, chains on his wrists. His face was gaunt, haunted by memories of 3 years spent as someone else's weapon. But his eyes were clear, present, human. Lord Varen stepped forward. "The prisoner stands accused of treason, attempted regicide, and the murder of 12 royal guards. The penalty is death." Murmurs of agreement rippled through the crowd. Ares raised his hand. Silence fell. "My brother is not a criminal. He's a victim." The murmurs turned to protests. Ares let them die naturally before continuing. For 3 years, Kaelin was held captive by our enemies. He was tortured, broken, rebuilt into a weapon aimed at his own family. His voice hardened. "The men responsible for his suffering are still out there. They are the criminals, not the instrument they created. But Your Majesty, Kaelin will receive treatment, care, time to heal." Ares's tone left no room for argument. "Anyone who objects can take the matter up with me personally." No one objected. Mira stepped forward. The crowd tensed. "I support this decision." Her voice carried clearly through the hall. "I understand what it means to have your choices stolen, to become something others designed you to be." She looked at Kaelin. "We are not defined by what was done to us. We are defined by what we choose to become." Kaelin's eyes glistened. He bowed his head. Next, Ares called Moira forward. The old woman approached slowly, shoulders hunched, expecting punishment. 20 years of deception, 20 years of serving the family whose heir she had hidden. "This woman," Ares announced, "is not a servant. She is a hero." Gasps echoed through the hall. 20 years ago, my father ordered the extermination of the Eastern bloodline. Moira was sent to execute that order. Instead, she chose mercy. He paused. She saved the life of an infant girl at the cost of everything: her honor, her peace, her soul. For 2 decades, she endured hatred and suspicion to protect a child who didn't even know her own name. He gestured, and a servant brought forward a medallion. "From this day forward, Moira shall be known as the Protector in Shadow. Her sacrifice will be remembered as long as this kingdom stands." Moira's composure shattered. She wept openly as Ares placed the medallion around her neck. Mira embraced her, and the hall watched in silence as the woman who had been reviled for 20 years was finally seen for what she truly was. Finally, Eldrick stepped forward with the ancient scrolls. "Let it be known," he proclaimed, "that the Lady Mira is not an Omega. She carries the blood of Alpha Roderick, leader of the Eastern Pack, one of the purest Alpha lineages in recorded history." He unrolled the genealogy. "By rights of blood, her claim to leadership equals or exceeds that of His Majesty King Ares." Tension crackled through the hall. Nobles exchanged nervous glances. Lady Isolde's face went pale. Mira felt every eye upon her. "I don't want the throne." The words landed like stones in still water. I didn't fight to gain power. I fought to protect the people I love." She took Ares' hand. "I will stand beside my mate not as a rival, but as a partner. This kingdom doesn't need another war over succession. It needs healing. I intend to help provide that." Ares lifted their joined hands. "Then let it be witnessed. Today, we crown not a conqueror, but a queen who chose love over power, sacrifice over safety, and mercy over vengeance." He knelt before her. The king of wolves, kneeling to place a crown on the head of the girl who had once scrubbed his floors. When the silver circlet settled on Mira's brow, the wolves howled. Every wolf in the hall, noble and servant, guard and guest, raised their voices in ancient tribute. Lady Isolde bowed her head with the rest, finally accepting what she could not change. 1 year later, moonlight spilled across the nursery. Mira held her daughter close, marveling at the impossible miracle in her arms. Silver hair, fine as spider silk, golden eyes that held galaxies. They had named her Elara, after the grandmother she would never meet. Kaelin sat in the corner, reading aloud from a book of fairy tales. He had healed slowly, with setbacks and nightmares, but he was present now, whole, the beloved uncle who spoiled his niece shamelessly. Moira dozed in a chair by the fire, the honorary grandmother who had waited 20 years for a family to call her own. Ares appeared in the doorway, watching his wife and daughter with eyes that still held wonder. Mira looked up at him and smiled. "No regrets?" he asked softly. She considered the question. 22 years of suffering, loss, invisibility, and then this. Love, family, purpose. "Those years made me strong enough to stand here," she said. "I'm not grateful for the pain, but I'm grateful for who it helped me become." Ares crossed the room and wrapped his arms around them both. Mira pressed her lips to Elara's forehead. "You will never be invisible," she whispered. "You will be seen, loved, protected. That's my promise to you, the promise I never received, but will always keep." Outside, the moon blazed silver, a family built from ruins, a kingdom healing from old wounds, a future written not in blood, but in hope. The invisible girl had become a queen, and she would never be unseen again. For 22 years, Mira believed she was invisible. She counted cracks in ceilings to forget her hunger. She pressed herself against walls to avoid being seen. She convinced herself that no one would ever remember her name. Maybe you know that feeling. The feeling of being overlooked, passed over, forgotten in rooms full of people who never bother to learn your face. Or maybe you know what it means to discover that someone who hurt you was actually protecting you all along. That cruelty sometimes wears the mask of love. Here's my question for you. Have you ever felt invisible? Have you ever wondered if anyone truly sees you for who you are beneath the surface? Comment below and tell me your story. Tell me about the moment someone finally saw you, or tell me you are still waiting for that moment. Either way, I want to hear from you. If this story touched something in your heart, share it with someone who needs to hear these words today. Someone who feels unseen. Someone who needs to know that their invisibility is not permanent. Follow for the next chapter. The enemy who broke Kaelin is still out there, and they are coming for the Silver Queen. Your story is not over. Neither is hers.